Here's a question that sounds almost too simple. Would you rather have $100,000 saved or earn $100,000 a year? Most people pick the salary, and honestly, that's the wrong answer. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, and why the number $100,000 is one of the most important milestones in your entire financial life. Let's talk about how most people think about money. You grow up being told, work hard, get a good job, earn more, spend less. Simple, right? So that's what people do. They chase the paycheck. They grind for the raise, they hustle for the promotion. And every single month they watch their bank account creep up, slowly, painfully, like watching paint dry. And here's the frustrating part. You could save $500 a month for years, skipping vacations, making coffee at home, saying no to things you actually want, and it still feels like you're barely moving. That feeling is real, and there's a very specific reason for it. The first $100,000 is the hardest money you will ever make. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because of how money works at small numbers. Let me show you something that will completely change how you see saving. Imagine you have $1,000 saved, you invest it, you earn 10% in a year, that gives you $100, that's it. $100, you could make that in an afternoon. Now imagine you have $100,000 saved. Same 10% return. That's $10,000 in a single year, without working a single extra hour. Same percentage, completely different life. That's compounding, and it sounds boring when you read about it in a textbook. But when you actually feel it, when your money starts making more money than your job does, everything changes. Charlie Munger, one of the greatest investors who ever lived, once said, "The first $100,000 is a B*, but you gotta do it." Harsh, but true. Because here's what nobody tells you when you're starting out. The early years of saving aren't really about the money. They're about building the engine. Think about a rocket ship. Almost all of the fuel, over 90% of it, is burned just getting off the ground. The first few thousand feet are the hardest, but once you break through the atmosphere, the rest of the journey takes almost no fuel at all. Your first $100,000 is the launch. 4. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just about math, it's about psychology. There's a concept called loss aversion. It basically means that humans feel the pain of losing money about twice as strongly as the pleasure of gaining it. 5. So when you're starting out with small savings and the market dips 10%, and you watch $500 disappear, it hurts. It feels personal. It feels like a mistake. That pain makes people quit. They pull their money out. They stop investing. They tell themselves, this isn't for me. But here's what they're missing. At small numbers, the emotional math and the real math are completely different. A 10% loss on $5,000 is $500. That stings. But a 10% loss on $100,000 is $10,000. And somehow, people who have that kind of money handle it differently. Why? Because by the time you've built $100,000, you've already seen the ups and downs. You've lived through market dips and recoveries. You've developed what psychologists call emotional resilience around money. 5. You stop reacting. You start thinking long-term. And that shift in mindset, that's worth more than any investment strategy. Let's go back to our earlier example, but stretch it out over time. Person A earns $60,000 a year and saves $1,000 a month. After 10 years, they've saved $120,000. But with a reasonable 8% annual return on their investments, they actually end up with closer to $180,000. That extra $60,000, they didn't work for it. Their money worked for them. But here's where it gets wild. In the next 10 years, same savings, same return, they don't just add another $180,000. They end up closer to $500,000 or more. 3. The curve starts to bend upward. This is what people mean when they say wealth builds on itself. It's not a straight line. It's an exponential curve. And the first $100,000 is the point where you finally start to see that curve start to move. Before that, it feels flat, it feels slow, it feels like nothing is working. After that, it feels like someone quietly turned up the volume on your financial life. 4. Here's the deeper idea I want you to sit with. Most people are playing a game they don't fully understand. They think wealth is about earning more, so they hustle harder, they take on more work, they burn themselves out chasing income. And income matters, don't get me wrong, earning more is important. But income alone doesn't build wealth. What builds wealth is what you do with your income. 3. There's a concept in personal finance called the difference between active income and passive income. Active income is money you trade time for. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour. You stop working, the money stops. Passive income is money that flows without your direct time. Investments, dividends, interest, assets that grow on their own. The first $100,000 is the moment you start seriously building your passive income engine. 3. Before that, you're mostly fueling the rocket. After that, you start to lift off. And here's the psychological shift that happens. Once you see your money making money, once you check your account and notice growth that you didn't personally create, your relationship with money changes. 5. You stop seeing money as something you spend. You start seeing it as something you deploy. That's the mindset of someone who builds real wealth. So what do you actually do with this? First, stop waiting to earn more before you start. The math works better the earlier you start. Even $200 a month invested consistently, starting at 22, can outperform $500 a month starting at 32. Time is the ingredient money can't buy. 4. Second, treat your first $100,000 like a mission, not a wish. Write it down, track it, know exactly where you are. Most people never hit this number because they never make it a real goal. Third, don't let the slow start fool you. The first years will feel like nothing is happening. That's normal. That's the rocket burning fuel on the launch pad. Keep going. Fourth, invest in assets that grow. 3 index funds. Real estate over time. Things that compound. Not depreciating things. Not things that make you look rich while keeping you broke. And fifth, understand your own psychology around money. 5, what triggers you to spend impulsively? What stories did you grow up hearing about money? Our emotions around money are often invisible, and they quietly drive every financial decision we make. Here's what I want to leave you with. The first $100,000 isn't just a financial milestone. It's a psychological one. It's the point where you stop being someone who hopes to build wealth and start being someone who is building it. The math gets easier. The habits are already built. The mindset is already shifting. And one day, you'll check your account and realize your money made more money last month than some people earn in a year. Not because you're smarter, not because you got lucky, but because you were willing to be patient when it was hard, disciplined when it was boring, and consistent when everyone around you was distracted. The first $100,000 is where the game changes. The question is, when are you going to start playing?